Welcome to NARAL's The Morning After. Each Thursday, our podcast brings you the latest on reproductive health care, progressive politics, and the fight to keep abortion safe and legal. NARAL's The Morning After is a production of NARAL Pro-Choice Ohio. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at ProChoiceOH. Enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
Hi, I'm Kelly.
Hi, I'm Gabe. So we are down to the end of the fourth quarter, and we're trying to run out the clock on this.
Hoping it doesn't go to overtime.
Yes, trying to avoid the double overtime scenario here.
Which makes great football, but terrible legislation.
That's absolutely correct. We're in the middle of lame duck right now. So the legislature,
quack, quack.
What's that?
Quack, quack.
Quack, quack. The legislature's trying to figure out what they want to do. And we've got still outstanding this 20-week abortion ban. And we're trying to not have it get a vote.
Mm-hmm. Because it's bad.
Because it's bad.
Because we think that women should be able to make their own health decisions without those ding-dongs down at the State House interfering.
What?
That's a good start.
Right.
Mhm.
That's one reason. Another reason is that sometimes it's necessary for a woman's health. Another reason is, it's unconstitutional.
There's that.
Kind of over and over and over again. Another reason is it probably costs a lot of money in legal fees that could be, used for better purpose somewhere. There's a few reasons.
So we'll see what happens. We haven't gotten the schedule yet. We're assuming it's on there until we get clearance that it's not.
Right.
But next week is supposed to be the last week, unless we do go into overtime, which I think everyone on the planet would be grumpy about.
Yes.
Including the legislators. So.
Yeah, they don't want to come back the week before Christmas and have to be dealing with this stuff. They want to be done.
Yes.
At shopping and presents to wrap. And
Aren't they traveling?
Somebody
also?
wants to, there's some legislator trip.
Oh,
to
is it
Israel. I don't know if it's
Israel?
ALEC. Yeah.
So they got shit to do.
Yeah, they got to get out of there. So we'll see what happens. On the good news front of lame duck, our access without apology agenda bills will get their legally required in the form of dumping it out in the trash with like 30 other people doing sponsor testimony on the very last day. But
so we're going to get to see some of our pro-choice champions take to the podium during committee, explain why Ohio should be increasing access to abortion providers, removing many of the restrictions that John Kasich has signed into law. Some really great bills. The best effort that we've seen, since we've been in the game to fight back
since ever
here in the state of Ohio. And so we're going to get to hear the sponsor testimony from those legislators.
Yep.
There may or may not be a 20-week abortion ban, committee hearing, floor vote, any of that's still up in the air.
Yep.
Folks to contact their state legislators and say, hey, this is a terrible idea, unconstitutional, cruel to women, not medically necessary. Don't schedule a vote.
Yep.
If a vote comes up, vote against it. Touch upon quickly is the biological material disposal bills. The whole Mike DeWine Stericycle witch hunt that he went on did not get scheduled for a committee hearing the last week.
No, I mean, they could change the schedule, so do some knocking on some wood here. But right now the schedule looks like it is not on there. It could also get dumped onto another bill, as we call them, Christmas tree bills at this time of the year.
Right.
But right now it looks like that one will die at the end of the session this time, unless something changes.
Right. Because these horrible procedures that DeWine was crying about is what the state does.
Yes.
These are medically industry standards, responsible procedures for disposing of all forms biological tissue. So these bills never should have been written. They should die in committee.
It was a way for Attorney General DeWine to try to save face.
Right.
It's another sham law, and under the newly clarified standards for abortion restrictions, it's an undue burden because it does not have a demonstrated impact that improves women's health. This is about closing clinics. It's not about tissue. It's about closing clinics, just like everything else that they're doing. It's about restricting access to abortion, and it's unconstitutional. The whole women's health case gave us a very clear measuring stick for everything going forward, and this fails.
So that's lame duck. That might be it. So we're still fighting. We're still contacting legislators. And then after that week, that's all we'll see out of the State House.
Hopefully, yes.
Out of the State Department of Health, it's a whole other deal.
Highway Hodges is
Yes.
back.
So he might have been quiet during the presidential election, which was a little weird. But ODH, since the election, has ramped up all kinds of stuff. So there are actually new developments kind of on two fronts. First, the Women's Med Center of Dayton received this week their license termination letter, saying that in 14 days they'll be forced to stop providing surgical abortion procedures. The clinic is going to court to stop that.
So they're fighting back.
Yeah, the clinic is fighting back. They're going to go to court to get a temporary stay to stay open after those 14 days. So it is everyone's expectation that the clinic will remain open while they fight this in court.
Right.
And again,
and it should, because of the whole women's health case. The Texas case was very similar sham laws. I think it's negligent, frankly, that the Ohio Department of Health is moving forward on this. The Supreme Court has been crystal clear.
Yeah, and other states have dropped cases. I mean, Alabama and Mississippi and somebody else, I feel like, stopped pursuing cases that were enforcing these laws.
Right.
And let some lower court rulings stand.
So this is Dayton, where the state is trying to use their phony baloney transfer agreement bureaucratic policy to close that clinic.
Yeah.
The only clinic in that city, and the only clinic in that part of the state
West Central
or
Ohio,
hospital,
right.
only healthcare provider that offers care later in pregnancy.
Right.
So this is not just any clinic. It is a critically important clinic.
Right.
Yeah.
For women who need a procedure in those, 20 to 24 week, those later stages, they're the only clinic within, 150-mile radius.
Probably at least. Yeah.
It's
Preterm would be the
so
closest.
it's a huge area that they're offering that specific service to, plus they're Dayton's only abortion provider.
Yeah, and they're making the argument that other clinics can absorb it, but we already know that other clinics can't absorb it. I mean, we've already gone from 16 to 9, and they can't absorb that patient load. We're seeing women being forced later into pregnancy to have an abortion. And you close that one, the clinic in Cincinnati will not be able to take all that patient load because the clinic in Cincinnati doesn't go as far. In those cases, we're going to end up with more women like Sheva that we've talked about before that was forced from Cincinnati to Chicago because of our already existing late-term abortion restrictions. Haskell couldn't fit her in before the cutoff point where it's legal in Ohio. So she had to go to Chicago to get the care for a pregnancy that was going to end with her child dying. Because
So she had a longer wait, a longer travel.
Yeah.
And thousands of
expenses,
dollars, like $3,000 worth of expenses just to pay for the trip and the procedure, which she should have been able to get in a short car ride.
Yes.
Within her region of the state.
And what happens to the women who can't do what Sheva did? I guess the state of Ohio wants them to have to carry doomed pregnancies and be asked the questions that visibly pregnant women get asked. Are you having a boy or girl?
Yep.
When's your baby due? And to have to either hide in your house until the pregnancy endangers your life imminently, or go out and face the cruelty that the state has imposed on you and your.
Yeah. Yep. So that's Dayton. And then an additional bad news out of the Department of Health, they a couple weeks ago denied Founders' variance application. So Grant Hospital in Columbus had denied the transfer agreement with Founders, and so they applied for a variance like Haskell has been trying to get in Dayton. They applied with 2 doctors, and they said that they didn't feel that was enough to protect the health of the women. Mind you, the law says 1 or more.
Right.
So 1 should be sufficient, but the Department of Health is putting additional restrictions.
The entire idea of needing backup doctors, I think, is
anyway.
ridiculous. I mean, if I go to, let's say, the oral surgeon, if my primary doctor at the oral surgeon, if they're not available that day, then they just call me in advance and they cancel the procedure.
Yeah.
And if something goes wrong during the procedure, they're not going to call the on-call guy who's sitting at home on his couch or he's out on the golf course. they're going to call 911
Yeah.
and put me in an ambulance, and I'm going to go to the hospital and I'll see the doctor there.
Who is
So-
required to treat you by law.
So needing a backup doctor
Mhm.
is, complete crap.
Yeah.
Needing 4 of them
Yeah.
or however many the state decides that they want to see this week.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
There's
I bet
no
that
reason for this.
they don't probably impose that on your dentist either,
No.
or any other ambulatory surgical facility. And I bet they don't bar them from getting those agreements with public hospitals or doctors that work at them. So,
Right. Those doctors are out on the
what
golf
could
course.
be afoot
They're
here?
fine.
Yeah, what could that be?
So mysterious.
Yes. So I know that the clinic is working to identify another doctor, but we've also been working with the Ohio Religious Coalition to kind of put pressure on Ohio Health, which operates Grant Hospital here, to reconsider the transfer agreement as well. So I think there's a little more hope in Columbus, but ODH is going after them, and we'll see what happens there. And then ongoing in Toledo, we're really just kind of in a holding pattern at this point with Toledo, because since 2014, when they got the license revocation notice, they have been fighting in court and have been able to stay open while they fight in court. But they've won at the county level and at the appeals court level from the county. And now the state of Ohio is trying to waste even more of your tax dollars by, after losing twice, appealing to the state
But
Supreme
aren't they
Court.
fiscally conservative and responsible?
Only when it doesn't come to wasting your money,
Mhm.
on fighting against abortion clinics.
It's confusing.
Right.
It's so confusing. So yeah, who are just in a holding pattern at this point to see if the state Supreme Court does take up that case or not. There's no, they have to act within a certain period of time requirement. They could sit on it for decades if they felt like it. So,
Well, and I think that's an important point, though, that the clinic has remained open
Yes.
through 2 years of litigation. These clinics that are under attack by the Ohio Department of Health, assuming they get what we need in the courts, they will remain open while we
Yes.
fight those legal
Mhm.
battles, which we would expect to win.
Yeah.
So women should not panic yet that they can't get care in their community, but they should know that these clinics are being dragged into court and being harassed. There's regulatory harassment happening by the state,
yeah.
but that they're fighting tooth and nail to stay open and provide care to their patients.
Mhm. Yeah. So, we'll see what happens out of ODH coming up. It seems that they've done a lot. They've had a lot of activity after the election. We hadn't seen them. Kind of wondering if, because Ohio Right to Life isn't getting their bills passed through the legislature, that they're focusing more on forcing Ohio Department of Health to do their bidding instead. So,
Well, that is why they picked the head of the Ohio Department of Health, who's completely unqualified for the
Yes.
job, and whose last job was to run the turnpike. It was because he's someone that they think would do their bidding. And,
Mhm.
we used to be part of what reporters called the caveman caucus
Right.
in the legislature because they were so anti-woman. So I guess Highway Hodges is getting back in step.
Yeah. So,
Okay. There's been some really good reporting from Ohio's media base. We'll put a lot of the links of articles so you can read more if you're interested in the show notes. So then, as we continue to look at the State House this past week, we had a great series of visits with our Patients to Advocates Fellowship. Our regular listeners will remember them from last week. We got to hear some great stories that they shared over the Thanksgiving holiday. They came to the State House to talk to some of our better champions, our really great pro-choice members, and then honestly, I'm not going to name names, but some mixed choice
Some weak tea.
Democrats, some weak tea. We definitely have
who you are.
some legislators out there who need to hear more from their constituents.
yeah.
We have some even this isn't partisan. There's Democrats out there that are anti-choice, some that are just in the middle, mixed choice, and they need to hear from women and to hear their stories. So the Patients to Advocates crew came to the State House and I think had a great set of meetings.
Yeah, they really did. So, they went in pairs and just shared their stories, because the legislators in that building kind of live in a bubble. They pass bills, but they never really hear how it impacts the people on the ground. So really the point of bringing them in, it was to say, you've passed, well, necessarily, they haven't necessarily voted for them, but the legislature has passed bills that impacted how they could access the healthcare they needed.
Right.
And here's how, so that our champions could better be champions, and learn from their story, to talk to their colleagues about the bills, but also so that some of our more weak supporters could, really understand how this impacts real people on the ground and why they need to be stronger advocates and vote against these bills.
I also think one of the great moments, though, was the visibility that they had during the Ohio Senate session. I mean, it was just fantastic that you worked with Senator Caprica Faro to have the patients to advocates recognized as visitors to the State House. I was watching on the Ohio channel, and for our listeners, they can go see it for themselves.
Yeah, we can link to it.
I really think it may have been the first time that women were recognized for having had abortions and were applauded by people in session.
Right.
I watched that and I thought, this is big.
Yeah.
This is different.
Yeah.
And this is how we fight abortion stigma.
Yeah. It really was. And, it was good to when you watch on the Ohio channel, it only focuses on one person. So you couldn't see the faces of like our friends in the Ohio Senate, but they all smiled. They all were looking happy. They were all gleefully clapping. My guess is that the people further away from us were kind of polite applauding, including our BFF Lynn Watchman, who's no longer in the legislature, but what just happened to be in the audience that day, which
the
was
original Heartbeat Bill sponsor.
Yes, the original caveman.
He
was.
He hates us so much.
So that was a very, very good day. And I think, they also got to see the real legislators, because so often legislators get put up on pedestals, like they're not like me, or I could never do that. Or so for them to meet amazing down-to-earth legislators like Amelia Sykes and Janine Boyd and Nikki Antonio, and those really great champions that are also just very down-to-earth people who you can relate to.
I'm hoping some of these patients to advocates run for office in the future. I've already talked to a couple of them about it. They're amazing.
And they definitely did get very jazzed up about the legislative process, about testifying and about listening to their voices, because that's what they heard from the staff members and from the members, that it's great that you came down. I'm glad we're having this meeting right now, but more people need to hear from you. You need to go testify. You need to use your voice out there. So,
and they'll be coming to DC.
So watch out, Washington, DC. They're descending on you in about a week and a half.
Gabe and I will be their drivers.
Chauffeur to the stars.
The happy to do it.
The patients will be hitting the nation's capital, storming Capitol Hill, talking to members of Congress about the same sort of stuff, because they're looking at a whole new ballgame themselves in terms of federal attacks on abortion rights. I don't know if you watched the Donald last night as he presented.
I was still working.
Man, that was something else. To see the next leader of the free world stand up there, and and you could tell when he went off prompter. Just because you have the
position doesn't mean you lead.
Man. Well, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
You could tell when he went off prompter and started to, just attack Hillary Clinton and just, absolutely outrageous statements, mocking reporters.
Let it go.
Yeah.
So,
this election has proved one thing and one thing only, that they're just as good about being sore winners as they are about being sore losers.
If you're a jerk before the election, you're probably a jerk after the election.
Right. How state legislators and national legislators deal with a Trump administration is anybody's guess at this point. So it is important that they hear from our patients to advocates. So look for that later in the month of December. And then Randy's not here to sing us out. Jamie, you want to sing?
Let me do it.
Yeah,
Kelly can do it.
Let's get it on. Ow, baby.
Kelly added a little thing to it. Fabulous. So really the thing is to sign the 20-week abortion ban petition, linked in the show notes.
Yep. It's a bit.ly link, bit.ly/no20week ban.
And then
So-
also next Wednesday, we're going to be doing a year-end gathering in the Columbus office for folks in Central Ohio to kind of debrief the last year and talk about challenges we're going to face next year, and just generally get together, gather amongst friends, drink some good drinks, and eat some good food, and
Right.
get ready for what's to come. So you can email volunteer@prochoiceohio.org for more information about that.
And we have an event coming up in Cleveland as well.
Yeah, on the 13th. 14th. Yeah, 14th. No, it's the 13th. You said
Is
it was
it?
the
I
So
don't know.
follow
I
us
just
on
work-
Yeah,
Twitter
follow
if
us
you
on
want
Twitter.
details, because I don't.
Things are happening.
Yes, things are happening. Stay tuned.
Yeah, follow us at ProChoiceOH. If and when we see a 20-week ban committee hearing, we'll put the details on Twitter first, along with hearings for our pro-choice champions to hear their sponsor testimony. You can come to the State House or get all the details if you follow us on social media. Everybody next week.
Bye.
Toodles.
Bye.